Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our dear listeners, our brother. The message reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post for my story as hidden identity? My brother, I am a young man, and as I stand, I even have my qualifications as a teacher, but I don't know where it all went wrong. I was someone that was really bright in school, but I suspect that amongst my relatives, there was one who didn't love me, who hated me a lot, who hated my success, because soon after I had graduated from the teachers college, I then found a job, and at that place where I was working, they had promised me that with my talent they wanted me to work at that school permanently, but I don't know what came over me, because I started to date this student and I didn't like it. I never thought that I was going to be that teacher that will end up dating his students in his class, but me and that young woman, we started dating each other, and before we could even go anywhere with our relationship, to show you that this was nothing but the work of the devil. The other teachers at that school, they then knew about my relationship with my student. I then got fired and I was blacklisted, such that I will never be able to work as a teacher again here in Zim. When I saw that I could not work as a teacher again in Zim, I then returned back home to the village where I was born. So in that village, there is one of my father's brother, my uncle. Each and every time, I don't know how he knew that I was back in the village, he will pass through our compound and he would laugh at me and he will say, "Oh, my brother, oh, my young brother, if you had known that your son is just an idiot, an useless idiot, you could have actually purchased some livestock with all the money that you wasted on him, sending him to all of these private boarding schools that were quite expensive and sending him to this teacher's college that was quite expensive. Look at him now. Look at him now. He's just a common villager who does not have anything. Most of his age mates, they are doing better in their life. Look at you, young man." You will be pointing at me as you will be saying, if you had not squandered this opportunity, you would have been able to assist your mother. Look at your young brothers. Can't you see that they are suffering? You were your father's investment, but look what you did. This pained me a lot, and I said, to hell with this suffering. At that time, I almost threw away my Bible, because I used to go to this Pentecostal church and I expected God to come to my rescue, to rescue me, but God was not coming forth. But God was not coming forth. When I saw that God was not coming to my rescue, when I returned back to the city, I then spoke with this other traditional healer. When I spoke with him, he told me that he was going to assist me, but he said, "We are not going to waste any time here, young man. I want to tell you nothing but the truth. You see, young boy, for you to make this money, you have to offer me blood. This shrine, it requires the blood of your mother." This is what he told me. He told me that my mother was going to die, and after my mother had died, I was supposed to make love to my mom's dead body. Throughout the night, I was going to be locked up in a room, making love to my mother, fighting with the ghost, the spirit of my mother. When the morning would have come, and if I would have conquered my mother's spirit, then I was going to have a lot of money. I agreed. This man, he then said, "Return back to the village so that we can start with the preparations, so that your mom can have a disease that is going to kill her." I immediately bought some groceries and I left Harare, going back to the villages. When I arrived back home, my mom was really happy because I had a lot of groceries. I then went into her bedroom, because this traditional healer had told me that the way that he was going to communicate with me, he was going to communicate with me using a mirror. So I went into my mother's bedroom. She had this old wardrobe, and that old wardrobe in the middle, it had this large mirror. As I was standing in the mirror, I then saw that traditional healer. He was sitting on his throne as if he was a god, and out of that mirror there came a needle. The spiritual world, it is real. He then gave me an instruction and he said, "Young man, I want you to place this needle anywhere on your mother's bed." I then lifted my mother's mattress and I just placed that needle on the mattress and I left her bedroom. I returned back home. in Harare, where I was staying. When I returned back to Harare, that was when I had the news that my mom, she was really ill. I sent some money so that they can come with her to the capital city so that she can get some better medication. When she came to the capital city, Brother Nashi, I was staying with her. We then took her to the hospital. When we took her to the hospital, she passed away. Already I had done some preparations. That healer had given me some money, and I had gone and I had paid so that when she had died, the mortuary, that funeral parlor, would go and collect her body. And this is what they did. When they collected her body, that was when at night the traditional healer gave me some of his boys, and we were using this other car that is called Noah. It is a car that has a lot of space. We went to that funeral parlor, and those boys that work for that traditional healer refused to assist me. When I entered into the cold room where they keep all of these dead bodies, I felt so sad for my mother, because her lifeless body was laid on this other metallic table that has some wheels. They were preparing to wash her body. Then I picked up her body. It was heavy. A person that has died, the corpse will get so heavy. I struggled out of that funeral parlor, and I went straight to that car that was opened, and I loaded my mother's dead body. We then went back to that traditional healer's place. When we went there, he said that it was forbidden for me to enter into his shrine. I was then taken to another room. It was more like a guest house, and later on I found out that this guest house, it is used for this purpose. If you are going to do a ritual whereby you are supposed to sleep with a corpse at that traditional healer's house, you are taken to that guest room. When I entered into there, there was a bed, there was a lot of traditional stuff. Then that traditional healer told me that he was going to lock the door from the outside. It was quite terrifying. I then made love to my mother's dead body. I did it the first time. The second round, then my mother grabbed me by the throat. Her spirit, her dead body, just grabbed me by the throat. So that traditional healer had told me to insult the spirit of my mother. If anything was going to happen, I was not supposed to show my mother that I was afraid of her. If I was going to do that, then my mother, she was going to kill me. She was going to finish me off. As she was grabbing me by the throat, I then pushed her hand to the side to show her that I was like a lion. I was not scared of her. I then started to insult her, and I said, "You are my sacrifice, oh dear mother. It is you that I have chosen. You need to die. You have to die, oh dear mother, so that I can enjoy my life." Me and my mother, we fought with her spirit. We fought so hard until I had defeated her. When I had defeated her, then my mother said, "Since you have chosen this path, since you have chosen to kill me, since you have chosen this blood money over the love of your mother, then I'll give you 17 years to live. 17 years, oh yes, you are going to live. And after these 17 years have passed, you are going to die from you are going to experience a terrible death. This is the way that you are going to die." When she said that I was going to experience a terrible death, I got so scared, and I kept on asking her to tell me the way that I was going to die. But my mother, she had slipped away. Her spirit had slipped away from my fingers. I continued making love to her, but it was quite terrible. When the morning came, Brother Nashi, it was somewhere around 3 a.m. I heard a loud knock on the door. Then the traditional healer entered into that bedroom where I had slept throughout the night with my mother's dead body. He was using his walking stick, showing me the things that he wanted to be done. So throughout the night, after I would have ejaculated, I had to quickly pull out of my mother's corpse. Then there was this other small calabash that had been given to me, and there was some water and some herbs that were inside that calabash. I had to wash my private parts, and after washing my private parts, I had to continue romancing my mother's dead body, making love to her as if she was alive. The traditional healers' boys walked into that bedroom, but they had this other reed mat. There were actually 2 reed mats that were stitched together. Then they helped me to carry my mother's dead body, but they made sure that they never came into physical contact with her dead body. We loaded her body back into that car, the Noah. We drove off back to that funeral parlor where we dropped off the body. When I returned, I acted as if I had gone to look for money. We then returned back to the village where my mother had been buried. That traditional healer had informed me that when my mother would have died, I was supposed to remove that needle that I had placed on that mattress, but I looked for it. I could not find it, and I felt so crazy after I saw that I could not find it. I shifted the property, I shifted the wardrobe, everything that was in her bedroom, but I could not find that needle. I then returned back to that traditional healer, and I told him that my mother's spirit told me that I was going to live for 17 years enjoying life, but I was going to die, but it is going to be a terrible way to die. Brother Nashi, this scares me a lot. I have money. I have all that I need in this world. You can mention it and I am going to buy it. But when I think of what my mom told me, my mom said that wealth you are going to have, but the way that you are going to die, you are going to have a terrible death. I don't know what is a terrible death that is really painful. I have watched some shows that have 1,000 ways to die, but I just can't picture the way that I am going to die. I am so scared, especially when it comes to that needle that I could not find. It scares the hell out of me. So Brother Nashi, 17 years was given to me so that I can die. After I have completed these 17 years, then I am going to die. Death is going to visit me and there is no salvation for me. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was forwarded to me by our brother there, and that was a translation of that message that I received. 17 years to enjoy life, and after 17 years you are going to die a terrible death. Death is going to visit you. Yo,